Welcome to Polishing Marbles. In this episode, I loop back with part 2 of my last podcast on shadow, where I promised to report what I channeled about the white hats and their part in these complex times. I will offer brief insights about my last gridwork trip to Sedona as I begin to integrate my time there. Themes include working with the ancestors of the land and weaving light from the quantum to the galactic macrocosm. Lastly, I'll bring Osho in with a message about what has shifted since the 1111 portal and what we are to expect in the coming months as Pluto transitions into Aquarius and the baton is passed in American leadership. Thank you for joining me today, and remember, you are your own guru. Look to your heart for your own truth, as love will always illuminate your path. Hello, welcome to Polishing Marbles. I'm Audrey, and I'm very excited about this podcast. I'm excited about, I suppose, every time I have a platform to talk endlessly, but this one I'm excited about because there's so much to share. I actually wanted to do this part 2 podcast before I left for my last gridwork trip, of course, adding to more that I wanted to say. So here we are. With that, I thought we could start by pulling a card. I've been using this deck for a while, but all week in particular because there's very, very strong shamanism energy this week working with the land in Sedona. And so this deck is it's a pocket deck for the Shaman Oracle. I think that's what it's called. Mystical Shaman Pocket Oracle. My larger version of this is very difficult to shuffle, so we are just going to go with this. Now, the reason this is so cool is because this was actually used as a guiding force in many ways. I was using several decks on my trip, but this one was used pretty significantly with my gridworking partner that I was with for this trip, Trinity. She and I just had the most amazing time. Still digesting everything, and I look forward to seeing how that comes in for both of us. We're both really incredibly powerful people with the land, and so together was like big fireworks, big fireworks. So let's see, what is the theme that's going to come forward today for people and for just this message with the podcast. Yeah, the shamanism was so thick, and luckily I've been called to it for years, and so working with the ancestors of the land just really comes easily for both of us. I pulled two, or they fell out. First one is the Sweat Lodge. Honestly, this is interesting because I never pull either of these cards. That's why it's, it's collective. Sweat Lodge, number 54. What do we have? Is this woman who looks like she's going through this like kind of womb space? If you catch my meaning here. Like there's a light coming from a tunnel, if you will. 54. Sweat Lodge, the essence. The Sweat Lodge represents the womb, there you go, of Mother Earth. Volcanic stones are heated in a fire outside, then brought into a lodge and placed in a shallow hole in the center. Participants sit in complete darkness around this red-hot stone to sweat away old habits and beliefs and heal disease. When you return humbly to the womb of the mother, you are offered second chances. I'm so curious. The invitation here. This is a time to journey inward into the dark and hidden places of that makes sense, of your soul to reconnect with the ancient earth wisdom. You can also create a sacred and intimate space in the dark by lighting a candle. Observe what emerges and without judging it, invite it to bring you its gifts. You are being offered an opportunity to shed and heal from the aspects of your life you have outgrown. Do not worry that you will be consumed in the process. This is interesting because I posted a live today about my upcoming event on Sunday for Down the Rabbit Hole, and I was talking about how like I ran into a butterfly And the theme for Down the Rabbit Hole is alchemy. And it's about like shedding old layers of the self to come to this purified space. Now, this deck offers like the medicine. So if you are needing medicine in this area, it would be like the tarot card reversed, basically. Um, Life is offering you a second chance. Take it, since the chance may not come your way again for a while. Mother Earth is calling you into her womb and inviting you to incubate as long as needed for spiritual rebirth. Gift yourself time to be with your darkness, your fears, your pain, and your seeds of beautiful potential until you come out the other side free, wise, and full of creativity. This is interesting too because since getting back from my trip, I've been kind of exhausted because it was my third trip this month and I'm just calibrating and integrating things. And so when that happens, sometimes spirit like nudges me to watch stuff and just stop moving because I'm always puttering and doing stuff. Like, stop moving, Audrey. Just lay on the couch with your cat, recover a little bit. It's okay to rest. And I was nudged to rewatch the show Lost. Do you remember that show? It was like, I don't know. I think it came out when my daughter was a baby and now she's 19. So it was a long time ago, but it had that kind of aura of Twin Peaks, kind of mysterious, what the hell is happening kind of situation where all these people are, in a plane crash on an island. And I feel like now, like I was looking for weird stuff in it before, like Easter eggs and things when I was like 27 or 28, and now like game on, And in it there was this part that came up yesterday where Charlie, who's like this rock star guy who's a heroin addict, and now he's, on an island without heroin and he's going through this detox. John Locke is like the wise man, the sage on the island, and he's kind of like acting as this mentor or guide for literally everybody on the island. He just knows things. And so he comes across this cocoon and he shows Charlie and he says, look at this at the top. It looks like he's about ready to come out. And I could make it easier for him by ripping it open. But if I do that, he won't be strong enough to survive on his own because I helped him. He has to go through the struggle in order to be strong enough to fly. And this feels like that. This feels like that, which speaks to something very cool that happened as well when I was on my trip. I'm gonna bring this over here just to remind me about it. But in general, that was right on the money with all the themes that are coming up. The other card was the eagle. The eagle right here. And I saw a bald eagle driving to my last gridwork trip before this one was in northern Idaho at a monastery with my friend Mariana. We went there to do some really intense, heavy, cool work in the woods. It was awesome. But there was this big bald eagle that just soared over my car. And I was like, oh, I've witnessed a miracle. Don't you feel that way whenever you like get to engage with nature in a new and exciting way? You're like, this was just for me, because it was. I promise it was just for you. Okay, number 16, the eagle, the essence of this card. Eagle comes from the east, the place of rising sun, of new beginnings. She soars high in the sky, sees the smallest detail with clarity without losing track of the bigger picture, and nests in the high mountains. For eagle, there are no obstacles, only opportunities. She calls you to ascend to acquire perspective so you can fly wing to wing with great spirit. Yeah, I was talking about this. I think it was with Marianne or Trinity about this eagle that I saw. And I was like, to be an eagle is to have no predators. Like you are the top of the food chain. And what an just an incredible sense of freedom that must be to not like have to watch your back or feel like things are gonna go wrong any second because you're a freaking eagle. Um, the invitation. Have you become trapped in your daily routine and feel you do not know how to go on and what to do next? Have you lost your sense of purpose? Eagle invites you to take a deep breath and spread your wings. When was the last time you opened them? This is so cool. Look what I'm going to talk about. Eagle reminds you that your spirit was born to soar to the heavens. As you contemplate choices, ask yourself, do I want to live in a chicken coop sheltered from life, counting the regular feedings, or do I want to soar like an eagle? I know which one I want. If your answer is the latter, then you must accept the eagle's invitation and embrace the courage that will help you choose freedom. So the medicine, or the reverse meaning, if you're struggling with this, it says, it is time to see through the eyes of the eagle. Let your vision of the whole and of its parts become laser-like and set your priorities straight. What did you come to do in this life? Did you come to climb up the ladder of financial or social success? Did you come to become a better person, to heal your heart, and to realize your essential self? What is your divine mission here on earth? No more excuses. That's very stern. Of course, you do not have enough time, enough money, or enough sleep yet. The time is now to fly to your chosen purpose. If you postpone it, you are betraying yourself. Look through the eyes of the eagle and consider every obstacle and opportunity where you set your intention is where you'll end up. Free yourself and live your highest destiny. Fly. Okay, that's really, really cool. I mean, it's really cool because of what I'm going to bring up about wings here in a little bit. So that is the read. I will put a link to this deck in the post, and my head is kind of spinning right now. It's pretty cool. I'm gonna need a sip of my mud water. Have you guys tried this? This is not promotional in any way, shape, or form. I just am excited that I tried something new and I didn't hate it. It's like this mushroom powdery tea, cacao, chai mashup of things that's really delicious and like it gives fall vibes. So okay. That was so good. All right. So I'm going to get comfortable for a second because I'm going to talk about the white hats. Now, I brought it up last time because of, the election and people that are kind of like nervous, really nervous and freaking out, depending on what side. Some people are just super excited and other people are like, oh my God. And it's fine. I don't engage. I don't engage. I just kind of like perch and say, that's interesting. This person feels this way. And because I'm kind of like in neutrality as much as humanly possible, because I know a lot of this is just like a chess game. But that being said, I do listen to Elizabeth April quite a bit. Like if she posts something, I watch it. If you don't know who she is the other person I know that channels from the Galactic Federation. So Osho, I basically met the galactic guide that I speak to and channel from Osho through the Galactic Federation of Light ship. And he's a ninth dimensional Arcturian hybrid who's connected to the plasma mycelium of the universe. So it's like he can really like connect to anything that exists in the ethers that exists like in universes. It's pretty stinking cool. And so Elizabeth April has been channeling from galactic beings for longer than I have, much longer than I have. I've been channeling forever, but not galactic beings. And she does a monthly like Galactic Federation summit where she gets questions answered. And so I listened to her quite a bit. And a couple weeks ago regarding the election, she was like, I'm going to channel about the white hats. Now, I could have waited for her channel, but I really like a challenge to like find out something that I don't know any answer to whatsoever. Like I have no idea. And I knew she was going to be posting on it soon. So I was like, I have to channel it. I want to channel it. I want to see what Osho will say. And then I'm going to compare notes. FYI, I haven't listened to what she said yet. And, and I don't know if it was on her Galactic Federation Summit meeting or not, but if you're interested in that sort of thing, check her out. She has tons of free stuff. She's super cool. But so here's what I channeled, and it was like an hour long, so I'm gonna hit some like generalizations, okay? So, okay, all of us on this planet live by a certain set of laws. I'm not talking about laws like as in judges and police and that sort of like government law. I'm talking about like laws of physics, or we all are mostly dealing with gravity and time, things like that. So there's laws that are just in place, and those can be like seen as good or bad, but more than anything, it's just like the board game that we're on. You can't really step outside of that set of rules because that's our board game. So if you are playing a game, let's say of chess, and you've got a board, it's going to have two colors on it. I remember my high school boyfriend was like this chess champion and a pool champion. He was great with like visual spatial stuff. So his chessboard was like one you can roll up, but it was green and off-white checkers. And it can be any like opposing color. It's a dark and a light, right? And that's literally everything. There's a dark and a light version, but that's the board. And this is symbolic, okay? So this is what Osho is sharing with me. So we've got this board, and it's got these squares of let's just say black and white, kind of like in Harry Potter, the first movie. At the end, they're playing wizard's chess. That was such a spoiler for everything because it's really how it works. And you've got certain movements you can make. You're on light and dark squares, but that's the game, are the light and dark squares. And you've got the light side and you've got the darker side. And they're battling to take over each other's stuff. So the only time I've heard the term white hats, because anyone who knows me personally knows, you know, autism and special interest, and my daughter's the same way as far as special interest usually being media. It's been like television shows, movies. I mean, the 90s were a great time for that, let's be honest. And also like music. So just media, right? And a lot of people who know autistic folks, it's a thing. It's a thing. Like if you go to like a fan niche store, and think about like people who are like super into Star Wars and stuff and Harry Potter, like those are usually neurodiverse people. So in this case, what we're looking at, let's just, for the sake of things, call it there are rules to chess, right? You pick a light side or a dark side. You can't really change what side you're on midway, but like chess, my special interest will always be probably Buffy the Vampire Slayer. There's an episode of it called Doppelgangland. It's in season 3, and it's basically like one of the characters is like a mean girl at the high school, makes a wish with a vengeance demon named Anya, saying she wished that Buffy had never come to Sunnydale, where she fights evil and kills demons and all this stuff. So there's an alternate timeline because it comes true. There's an why can't I say alternate timeline that comes true where suddenly this mean girl finds herself in a reality in which Buffy never came to Sunnydale, and now everybody's been like horribly murdered, and they've like their favorite place called the Bronze, where they went to see live music and drink coffee and stuff, is now like taken over as this basically restaurant of people for the vampires. And she's like seeing all these people that are just like in this different reality trying to engage with it, and she hears about the white hats that are trying to like save the town. And I was like, white hats, I assume that means the good guys. They come up in this van, they're trying to save her, whatever. And I'm like, okay, white hats are the good guys, right? Okay, cool. So when I was going to channel about the white hats, I'm thinking white hats, good guys, cool. It is not that simple. According to Osho. So what he was saying was we live in this world of basic rules. Now I'm going to pivot in what I'm talking about because my whole thing, and my whole thing is the laws of the universe, right? The course that I worked just endlessly to create about the Hermetic principles, the seven laws of the universe. Let's say that that is the rule book for how to play chess because these are the laws. The Kabbalion, the Emerald Tablets, the Corpus Hermeticum, all of this. And take a look. I've just like highlight everything in this. Seven laws of the universe are how we play a chess. The board is the realm we're on, like the matrix we're living in. And we can only move certain ways. But this is our strategy for how to play, okay? The laws of the universe. But the strategy is neutral. Like you can do anything with that strategy. You can use it because these are laws. So you can use them for good or evil. They're just basically neutral. So a couple years ago, I was told by Spirit, who was it? I think it was, who was it? Oh my gosh. It wasn't Nostradamus. It was Pythagoras? Yeah, I think it was yeah, it was Pythagoras. He was like, a pen is a writing utensil. You could write anything with it. You could write hate speech or poetry, but the pen is going to write whatever the person guides it to write. It's the intention that makes it so, right? So the Kabbalion are its laws, and some people can do messed up stuff with the laws. It's just like how it works. You can write hate speech with this pen, or you can write amazing poetry or something that's totally nonsensical, but it is a way to create. All right. So what Osho was sharing with me is that the laws are neutral. We're in a matrix on a playing field. We've got a light and dark side, and they're playing against each other. Now, there are a lot of people in the middle who don't really know what's going on. They can be pawns, they can be like just observers, but there is a fight going on. There's a battle that's happening. And so the white hat, he was saying basically, we've got, let's just say, who has been in charge of access to these laws since the burning of the temples, the temple, and then the burning of the Library of Alexandria. That information has been in the hands of people who use it for personal gain and abuse the laws largely. So a lot of people know them as the Illuminati. Now, I'm not here to conspiracy theory because I was fighting with my daughter yesterday saying, she's like, you're such a conspiracy theorist. I'm like, it's not a theory, like it's real. I'm not kidding. There's just it's very well documented that these laws are and symbols are seen in lots of things that have dark associations, especially right now. But like the Freemasons, for example, they use the Kabbalion and all the laws of the universe, and there are people in every organization that are good or evil. There are people that use it for the betterment, and there are people that use it for not the betterment, let's say. So we got the two sides. And what I decided to bring up was a really cool illustration from this book that if you want to make your brain melt onto the sidewalk, this is a great way to start. It's called The Universal One by Walter Russell. Who's Walter Russell, you ask? Walter Russell was a scientist and a metaphysicist during the era of Einstein and Oppenheimer. He was part of their group, but he blended science and spirit because he felt there was no separation, and that didn't align with the Newtonian physics everyone was pushing at the time. So he kind of got hidden And you can download this online for free. Like it's just free. All of his stuff is free online. Like I got that printed out on Amazon, but what I like about this book is it has a lot of illustrations that show things that are really helpful to understand stuff. So I printed out one of them. You're like, what am I looking at, Audrey? And if you are listening, I am going to certainly attach this file. So this is called the cosmic pendulum. And so it basically shows a pendulum and a scale of it moving from one side to another side, but it also holds different poles here. So we've got one side that is positively charged and one side that is negatively charged. Let's say it's light and dark, light and dark. So the law of polarity in Hermeticism is basically saying if something's going to swing this way, it's going to swing just as much the other direction. I'm simplifying it. And it's really a law of alchemy that lets you know how you are able to transmute your own stuff. But that's more lengthy and for another time. But this is so helpful because one side is creation and one side is destroying stuff, right? So one's magnetic and one's electric. One's an inhalation and one's an exhalation. So one is going with expansion and one's going with contraction. These are opposing sides, right? One is positive, one is negative. And so this is how everything cycles in this pendulum. And there can't be a total absence of darkness. Everything has to disintegrate, literally everything. And so that happens in things like, I've gone through this initiation with like bones and dead animals last. It was better when it was just bones, but then I started finding dead animals and then I had to like preserve them or do stuff with them and deal with the smell of death. And there's this whole process of decomposition that's really important to understand that everything returns back to its source. And so there are things that are constantly working to destroy, and there are things constantly working to create on every level of everything. There's bacteria and viruses, and there's white blood cells and stem cells. So things are like creating. That's the law of correspondence, that everything above is seen on below and internally and outwardly. So if there's evil in the world, the evil, let's just say, it's really neutral, but evil is something that's destroying stuff. And then the good is the stuff that is creating things. We're just going to simplify it. It's a lot more nuanced than that. But, so this is the same with chess. One side is going to sway this way and it's working for its own good. So like a white blood cell has no problem destroying a virus. It's like, you little bitch, you are out of here. And it doesn't think twice. It doesn't feel bad for the bacteria or virus's family. It's like, get the hell out and it will destroy it. But depending on your perspective, if you're the virus's family or other bits of virus, it's like, you're evil. Why did you kill my friend? But on the other side, do you see what I'm saying? It depends on what your goal is. Is your goal for the human body to survive, or is your goal to take over the human body for food? So do you see it's kind of like, is it good? Is it bad? It's a perspective. What do you think? Of course, we can all agree that doing horrible things to children or like gaslighting a bunch of humans to make them work as slaves is like bad, especially if you're one of those people. But it's great for the people that are getting free labor and living high on the hog. But once you understand the eternal nature of a soul, it's less personal and more observant. You're just looking from above down onto the chess game and what's being played. And yeah, I know it's all like there's some bad stuff, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the white hats. Bring it back to the white hats. Back to that like perspective. understanding that it is the perspective of the white hats or the Illuminati who's winning, who's the good guy. It totally depends. So what Osho was telling me was that the white hats have absolutely no problem at all destroying things to preserve the evolution of the species in a non hijacked way, like to bring it back into balance. So the white hats are trying actively to do anything necessary to get it back on the right track, including potential acts of violence or darkness or whatever. And it made a little bit of sense to me at that point because I used to really wonder about this group. I'm sure a lot of people know about it from watching iRobot or whatever back in the day of like Anonymous. And I don't follow I don't know what's going on with Anonymous, but there's a period of time where it felt kind of like a terrorist organization, honestly, of these individuals who would, bomb a building, and not care who was hurt because it was for a statement or something. And I'm not saying that that's a white hat thing to do, but the intention was to destroy this distorted system. So what Osho was sharing was that you don't look at it as like peaceful beings, because you can fight and in acts of violence for something that is your truth, that you feel is the right thing to do. White hats are here to bring things back onto the timeline and the matrix that is unmuddied in order for creation to continue instead of it being like sucked dry and destroyed. So it's neither good nor bad. It's just a game. It's a game of chess. And I was like, seriously? And he said, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but an example of this would be if you knew someone was going to like launch a nuclear weapon, and if you had to like destroy the building that person was in who would do that, that would be an example of doing something that's awful for the betterment of the greater good. And I'm just like, this is making me uncomfortable. I don't enjoy this conversation anymore. And he's like, you asked. And I was like, yes, I did. Yes, I did. But so I hesitate to say this, but I'm going to. I'm going to say it, and then someone's going to be mad at me for it. Because about 6 months ago, I have a great relationship with my hairstylist. I get to see him tomorrow. I'm so excited. But he asks me questions all the time of like, well, what about this? What about that? Because he knows that I'm a channeler, and we've known each other for like how many years? I knew him. He did my hair when I was 19 and modeling. So it's been a while that I've known him. So I'll just tell him all sorts of stuff. And he asked me one day, he's like, is Elon Musk evil? And and much to my chagrin, I learned after this like channeling with Osho, what I knew about him before was that I when I channeled about him before this question, like many months ago, I heard that he was basically someone who goes in and flips homes, but they're planets. And he doesn't like when things don't run efficiently. Like it makes him insane. He thinks it's ridiculous that things should take too much time, too much energy, too much effort. He wants to simplify things and not waste resources because it just feels stupid to him. And it's not a matter of right or wrong. It's like, what the hell is wrong with you guys? Why aren't you doing it this way? This makes it so much easier. It moves more smoothly. Why would you do it any other way than this? What's wrong with you people? But he does this on different planets, his soul does or whatever. And so he was basically like a universal flipper of planets into greater efficiency. And he has absolutely no bedside manner. He's basically like a neurologist. They're known for just not having a filter, and they just do their own thing. And he's not in his heart space, so he just is thinking about logic, and things aren't running smoothly, so I'm going to make it run smoothly. And he doesn't really care if anyone's hurt or helped. It's the principle of the thing. He wants it to run more efficiently. And when I channeled that, I was like, well, that makes sense. So he's neither like good or evil. He's just efficient. And then when Osho shared with me about the white hats, I was like, okay, so was he a white hat? And they're like, or Osho said, well, yeah, by definition, he's working toward the sustaining of the planetary ability to like heal itself, free energy sources, blah, blah, blah. He went off on all of these things as far as like long term to bring it back to a place where it's not depleting the earth, which supports that idea of like creation instead of destruction. So technically a white hat, not a pleasant person. So then it brought this whole thing to me of like, okay, well, if he's like a moody, kind of offensive person and he's like a white hat, it's not about good or evil, it's about creation or destruction. Are you preserving to create more things? Or are you trying to destroy your resources to bring disintegration upon all of mankind and the planet? And so that is the whole white hat thing. And I'd be interested to know like what your thoughts are. I mean, if they're pleasant and not mean. I mean, yeah, discourse is great. But if you're not looking at it as that in this book, I remember in the Emerald Tablets, it talks about how it's going to be tricky in in this world because it's basically like wolf in sheep's clothing. Some people are going to look like they're good when they're actually not, and they're going to look bad when they're actually not. So it's really there's this trickery to this chess game that we're on of you think you know what your opposing side is, but you really don't. Because sometimes, I mean, who here has been betrayed by somebody? Of course. We feel anger and sadness from people who betray us that we once loved, once knew were on our side, and then they're not. And so that's not really a surprise that the dark can dress up like light and the light can dress up like dark. A really good example of that is after I got back from Shasta the last time, I was so like drained and going into mass like shedding initiation that I just laid on my couch for a little while and watched a bunch of Disney movies. And one was the second Maleficent movie, and of course Angelina Jolie against Michelle Pfeiffer. And Michelle Pfeiffer was like this white queen, and she was all like dressed up and beautiful and living in the castle and had everything and everything you could ever want. And then Maleficent, of course, she's got her horns and she's wearing all black and she's, you know, kind of angry. She has reason to be angry, by the way, but you find out in the movie the White Queen was kind of evil. So the trickery, move left, move right. That is the white hat thing. So that leaves a lot of confusion, doesn't it? Okay, now shifting over to my gridwork trip in Sedona. I was called to go there for the 1111 portal. And because I'm still processing a lot of it, I'm not going to speak to a lot of it. I'm going to speak to some blurry watercolors, but also bring up the things I know for sure. Now, like I said, I did that trip with my friend Trinity, and it was so exciting to do that work with her. We'd done some work together on the 8-8 portal at Shasta, which was sacred and amazing. She's a very powerful quantum alchemist. So she's actually like a biochemist, like a for real one. And so she does work on the teeny tiny, and I work on a bigger level. And so we were really mashing those two gifts together of the quantum and the macro. And we ended up doing some weaving with some golden frequencies and plasmic light and working with the ancestors. And it's just a lot of blurriness because, sometimes when you get so much at once, it gets stuck and it needs to move through. So that's kind of like a blurry watercolor of in general what the goal was. Now I brought, and this was so cool that Spirit asked me to do this, but it was very time consuming, was to bring an item from every bit of grid work I've done so far. Because I keep all of my grid work stuff and my bones and stuff in this closet right here. Very organized now. Very proud of that. So I have them organized by labeled mason jars or bags if there's not enough stuff to fill up a mason jar. And I literally pulled out a single item from every grid work trip I've ever done. And for everything from Maui to rainforests in Washington to like I had feathers, dirt, sand, dried flowers, feathers, rocks, bones. I had just it's a menagerie of things. And so I had them all labeled. I think there's probably over 50 things. And so Trinity and I used those to kind of like make, I would say, have you seen the movie How to Make an American Quilt with Winona Ryder from the 90s? All these women get together of different generations and backgrounds, and they're creating their own patch for this quilt that they're going to put together that represents all of this history and these women of different ages and backgrounds. And you get to kind of see the flashback of what informed their choice to make that patch to add to the quilt. And what I was shown was that our quantum to macrocosmic weaving that we were doing there with all of those items was actually bringing in all of the guardians from those spaces as support. And we called them all in when we were anchoring down the medicine wheel. It was bringing in those different energies into a unity consciousness, into a singularity. So if you look at it, we were calling in the directions of north, south, east, and west, and that's what Trinity was doing, and I was bringing in the above and below. So it looks kind of like a dice, not a dice, a jack, like from playing jacks. It looked like a jack. It was bringing in the above and below. She's bringing in the directions. We pulled in all the ancestors. We're both doing all the light language, and we're literally weaving. We're bringing grandmother spider in from the Hopi. Super powerful stuff. But the thing I wanted to really share that was cool was when we decided to do the work. And we had a general idea of where we were going. We didn't know exactly where to stop. I felt something, like I can kind of feel changes in energy pretty well. And there was this kind of circular area. I was like, there is a spaceship underneath us right now. And Trinity's like, cool. And I'm looking around to like see a sign. Is this where I'm supposed to be to do this work? And then I look down and I find this white, pure white moth. And the reason that is so stinking cool is because since Shasta, I was like initiated with caterpillars everywhere. My daughter found a caterpillar in our house while I was gone, and I told her to keep it, and then it went into the cocoon and it didn't hatch properly, and I wasn't going to help it, and then it died, and it was awful, and then moths were everywhere and caterpillars were everywhere. This is a pure white caterpillar or moth, and I'm like, oh, it's a sign. And this is after I found a pure white wing that was preserved in a park a couple of weeks ago. So I'm like, this is the one. The wing is the expansion, the transformation. It has come to pass. So we did our work there, and that was amazing. But what came in while we were doing the work, which I wanted to share before I move on to my last bit of this podcast, is what I channeled around the fascia. Now, people who know Audrey Mitchell from being in college and undergrad at least, I did not do well in anatomy and physiology. I still have my anatomy and physiology flashcards in my closet here because it was such a challenge. I chose to keep them around forever. I still have my books and my lab workbook because there's some good pictures in there, and I hope one day it will actually permeate my brain. I used to watch the show House and really learn how all of these things apply, and it was pretty cool to people's stories. That's how I don't just like regurgitate information while I need to know how it anchors into true life. So when I started channeling, and when I channel things that I don't have scope for, I'm always like, okay, please clarify. So fascia came in, fascia, fascia, fascia. Same time, Trinity is channeling that we have to get things into the empty spaces, like layers. And I'm like, does that have to do with fascia? So yeah, it does. It's the connective tissue that like everything in your body is like got fascia around it. And what I learned was that this transformation all of us are going through is about a vibrational shift and like a metamorphosis in the way that we hold light, and it's happening on a deep core level in our fascia, which is causing deep discomfort for people in their joints, in their muscles, in ways that they're like, oh my God, do I have something wrong with me? But nothing's going to be found. And so much so, like my daughter who's 19, she's having pain in her body too. Like I am hearing it from lots of different sources. And I'm like, okay, I too have been experiencing joint pain and I typically don't. And there was a period of a couple weeks where my muscles hurt so bad you would have thought I had the flu, but I wasn't sick. And it all came together for me when I got this information about the fascia. And that is this point. So yesterday, I decided to ask ChatGPT. So when something's going through metamorphosis, say a butterfly, a caterpillar to a butterfly, or there's molting or something that's not a human, does it involve the fascia needing to change on a like cellular level? And ChatGPT let me know that it was. Absolutely, it all started at a fascia level. Do I think we're all going to turn to goo and become butterflies? No, I don't. I think it's going to be the change is what we're experiencing on a galactic level and through the plasma of the sun, but it's definitely affecting our physical form. And so I wanted to share that just to acknowledge that some of you might be experiencing physical symptoms that are uncomfortable. Not normalize it because it's not normal, but like to let you know you're probably not dying, but it is definitely a symptom that's being experienced. And I have experienced it too. And we were anchoring the light in it and trying to make it as comfortable as possible in our work together. So, with that being said, briefly, I'll share that I was supposed to anchor an Andara crystal that I got from Shasta from these lovely women that hail from Mexico. They gifted me some Andaras to do the work because we have the same kind of goal of balancing masculine and feminine energies to come into like this singularity point of purity. And so they gave me these Andaras, and I hadn't actually planted any of them yet since that trip. And so I brought one knowing that that was something I was going to need to do. And after Trinity headed back to her home, I had another like day, half day there. And I was just kind of driving around. And if you've been to Sedona, you know that the sites that are holy are really hard to reach because they're on narrow roads. There's hardly any parking and everybody's going there. So I kind of gave up on trying to get to some of the hot spots on my last day. And I ended up at this park called Slide Rock Park. Slide Rock? Slide Rock. There's like this beautiful water situation there that's just like red rocks and these long rocks with water coming in, and people were swimming, and it was still like not Arizona hot is my understanding, but it was very pleasant. It was like 75 degrees and people were swimming. And apparently it was cold. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. So I was like, this is the place. And so I did some gridding by the water. And then I wanted to go on a trail that offered like a little bit more privacy, thinking that that's where I was going to get this. Okay, this park in Arizona that is a desert also ends up being an apple orchard. And if you know about apples, you know, just in general, it's like a mirror of the toral field, which is our energy source. It's also associated with the heart. It's also like literally the heart in like Glastonbury. Um, that whole tradition, it is associated with the heart. And then, of course, the Garden of Eden, the fruit of knowledge is always seen to be an apple. Some people think it was something else, like a pomegranate. I don't know. I wasn't there. Maybe I was. Was I there? I don't remember. But I was like, what are the odds of in the desert, there's now water and then there's apples? What? So I go on the trail, and after a little while, there's a big sign that says closed for revegetation. I don't like rules. I'm not promoting that you break the law, but I certainly did because I moved past it. Knowing I'd have some privacy to do this grid work made me really happy. I go walking, I find this apple orchard, and I go up to the biggest of the apple trees. No one's around because it's closed off. And I use my plant app to identify what kind of apple it is. It says it's a paradise apple tree. It's like, huh, paradise, you say. Paradise apple tree. I've got my Andara, which is supposed to blend the masculine and the feminine. There was a snake around the tree in the Garden of Eden, which represented the feminine. The tree is the masculine. And okay, we have the fruit. We are planting the Andara. Holy crap. So amazing. It was one of those things where you just can't make it up. I have so many of those things, like the white moth, or can't make it up. So I did get lots of prickles from that, and it was worth all of it, and it was great. And to put a cherry on top of the whole situation, this is crazy. So they had a little market. I knew I was gonna be thirsty on my way back to the Airbnb, so I went in to buy some apple juice, and there was a family in front of me that was leaving, and this adorable, like 2-year-old little child. She was so cute. She had really, really curly ringletty hair and a big pink bow around her head, and she was wearing like this full garb outfit, mom like suited her up with, because I totally did that when my daughter was that young. But it was like leopard print and this cute little vest, and she's just like dressed to the nines. And she's like 2. And when you're on the awakening journey or fairly well along, you notice that animals come to you and children are mesmerized by you. I think they can see the auras that most people can't see. Anyway, as we are leaving, they're in front of me. And this little girl looks around at me, and she goes, like she just saw her best friend in the whole wide world, and it was me. And I was like, hi, how are you? And she lets go of her mom's hand, runs to me, and she's just looking at me like she just saw Santa Claus, assuming Santa Claus is a good thing. I'm like, hi, how are you? My name's Audrey. What's your name? And she says, Oshi, Oshi. And I was just like, you're kidding me, right? Because I mean, I talked to Osho, and her mom is paying attention and really sweet. And I was like, Oshi, it's so nice to meet you. And then she's like, okay, let's go. And she takes my hand. She starts walking the opposite direction as her mom. She's just like totally ready to leave her mom and come with me. Like, I'm sorry, you can't go with me. You're going to have to go with your mother, who now thinks I'm an insane person. But it was so cool. It was so cool to get that like other confirmation. And then I looked up Oshi, and it had a Hindi meaning to it, which I cannot bring into the realm of my consciousness right now. So I will not do that. But so that was kind of like a blurry watercolor of that trip. And I'm trying to anchor and things now, organizing all the energy that's moving through me, which is something in my gridwork course, my intro to gridwork course. I talk about this. I specifically go through my first gridwork trip to Maui when I experienced some real difficulty integrating when I got back, because the energies of the indigenous there were so strong that it put me into a shutdown mode after I arrived, and I felt like I was doing something wrong. I experienced something fairly similar with this trip. And I know that it's all going to start pouring in. It's kind of like an absorption issue. So I have to keep things moving in order to get it. But if you're curious about this grid work thing and you're like, what does it mean? You could check out my course. It's really inexpensive. It's just the basics of the law of vibration and how you're working to weave things into the land that are positive, kind of giving a little acupuncture treatment with your light. So that being said, that's a good segue before I do some channeling with Osho, not to be confused with Oshi, to talk about my upcoming events for the rest of November and what to anticipate for next month. So I was going to have my Down the Rabbit Hole event. this coming Saturday, but I needed to move it to be present for a friend of mine during a hard time. So I'm doing that and moving it to Sunday the 17th at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. The Down the Rabbit Hole event is going to be all about alchemy, which is transformation. It's oldest sense. It's very coded. It's very mysterious. And my Down the Rabbit Hole event is always about like, what do you want to know more about? Give the breadcrumbs, drop them on the ground, see if they're interesting to you, and then you can take them and go your own way with them. So last month it was around the season of the witch because it was, Halloween. And this month it's going to be on alchemy. And that is a free event, and it's my last free event. I've been giving free events for months now, and now I'm going to start charging very reasonable price for all of my events. And if you can't make it at that time, I send out recordings of them afterwards. So you don't really have to be there live if you can't or don't want to. You don't have to participate or like feel like a teacher is calling on you. You can come, be quiet, observe, or just watch the replay. The next one is going to be on the 19th of this month. It's my Awaken the Witch event because I decided to create a monthly witch event, which is to really just like awaken the old ways that women used to have. We used to have before we were all burned at the stake or drowned or whatever. We used to know what plants were healing. We used to understand the cycles of the moon. We used to understand that our bodies are also cycling in big and small ways. And we used to do that and feel okay about it. Now we're like, oh my gosh, I'm 5 pounds more than I was yesterday. What's going on? I'm totally fat. No, you're not. You're like the moon. You wax and wane, and you're amazing, and you're a portal of life. Calm down. So this month, the Awaken the Witch event is going to be talking about herbalism actually, because I've been going through an herbalism initiation and I have probably about 50, 60 tincturing or post-tincture in I'm calling it the apothecary now, my spare room. And I'm going to teach a few of the things that have been brought to my attention. Um, and my last event of the month is my Ask Osho event, where I channel as many questions as I can in the hour that are submitted by people who sign up. And so when you sign up, you get to ask a question. And last time I couldn't get to them all, but I do keep a running list of those questions, and I will add them to potential podcast episodes in the future to get those questions answered. It's super fun, and the things that he brings through are like crazy, unique, and amazing, as you'll see in a second when I channel Osho. For next month, I will be having all the same type of things with a different theme. So already this month, I did a gridwork event where we gridded to support points of tension on the planet to support the upliftment of leadership as we were changing leadership approaching the election. And that was so powerful and so beautiful. We're still going to do Down the Rabbit Hole. We're still going to do Awaken the Witch and Ask Osho, but I'm so excited about this. I'm going to add, and this one will always be a free event because it has to be. A spirit says it has to be just simply because of what it is. So if any of you are Gen Z or know someone who is Gen Z, some of you probably have a Gen Z kid, or you have like nieces, nephews, whomever, and they're kind of like, I'm gonna be honest, they weren't born with much of a veil. They don't care about rules or adhering to like cultural propaganda of what your goals need to be. They're just like doing their own thing. And on top of that, so many of them are like kind of awake, but they don't know what to do with it and they don't have any guidance and they're kind of just like tortured because they think they're crazy with the psychic or clairaudient or whatever things that they're experiencing, and they don't know what to do and where to go, and they can't talk to their parents, and counselors don't talk about this stuff most of the time, except I was that counselor. That's why I don't do it anymore. But I was told by Spirit, I need to create an ascension support group for Gen Z. That will be a free event for Gen Zers every month to come and share and talk and get guidance and like Q&A and just like I'm going to gauge how long it needs to be. I'll probably start it with like 60 or 90 minutes because Gen Zers do like to talk when they start, if they start, and just really like make them feel that there's a place of support for them, and that just needs to exist. Period. I am going to be working on a divine masculine gathering, but I'm just going to do one thing at a time. So that's that. Please do keep in mind, I also offer a light language class and my Laws of the Universe class. So that being said, I'm going to take a moment and get ready to bring in Osho, okay? Are you ready? What crystals today? Let's see. This one. This guy was at all the things that I did. Little chatty guy. Okay. The question I'm going to ask is around what to expect since the 1111 portal and with all of the changes that are going to be coming up collectively in the next coming months. So just kind of get a little update on that. There's a galactic excitement that's present amongst all the galactic races because there's been just so much chatter about like each portal that we bring in and anchor in energies among the star seeds and light workers around the planet. We are in essence bringing in the patchwork of these unique energies that are representative of many galactic cultures. He's showing me and reminding me that all of us that have been called, we've basically been tapped to this secret society of our own. He's saying where we're bringing in different frequencies. There's no one here that carries the exact same frequency because we are all coming from different galactic races. Now we're familiar mostly as starseeds with Arcturian, Sirian, Lyran, all those, Andromedan. But he's saying that there are people from different galaxies. It's not just, he's like, why are people taking so many starseed quizzes to see what starseed they are? Like, don't they know people came from other galaxies? Like, there are infinite galaxies, and the people that were incarnated at this time come from all of them. They're not just part of these specific ones. I've not heard this before, but that's fair, and that makes sense. So everyone here is holding a different frequency that's really important to bring in an anchor. He's like, it's a macrocosm to what I did by bringing in the grid work items that were that called in the galactic, or not galactic, the ancestors from those lands. What they're doing is they've called in the galactic star seeds. They've called in the galactic star seeds to come to the earth, and on the earth, the galactic star seeds are attracted to certain areas, bringing in earthly ancestors in the macro to microcosmic weaving. And the results of that, he's saying, is it's happening on a quantum level too, because everything through the law of correspondence, as above, so below, as within, so without. So everything is changing and being brought in. He's repeating that. Light is being brought in. Yeah, he's showing me, my friend Trinity was talking about kind of this like sludgy tar essence that exists within the third dimensional realm that we've been living in, just kind of trudging through this slow, thick, yucky stuff. And he's like, bringing in the light, bringing in the light, bringing in the light. And it's going to add levity to what was very sluggish before. And because we're bringing in light, things are going to move very rapidly because according to vibration in general, lower frequency, dense frequencies are more slow moving. He's saying Saturn is the densest gravity that exists in our planetary system, and it is known to be associated with time. He's also showing me Kronos eating all of his children, which is the god of Saturn. And so as we change from those really dense time structured frequencies that are like, oh, whoa, I'm hearing, to it just goes faster. So things will move faster than they've ever moved in our consciousness before. So what to anticipate is what you've experienced on a dense level in the past, as far as personal change, evolution being triggered with new opportunities, people leaving your life and then having to face them again and make the same decision to support your own personal power. Those could take decades before they are going to take much shorter periods of time to anchor you into your highest potential and your highest potential timeline. Collectively, it will move more rapidly as well because we have now anchored into a collective timeline that is of a higher frequency, that is of creation instead of destruction. And so with that creation, we're bringing things together in new connections. We're not disconnecting things. We've been in a state of disconnecting things, which is more like a mold frequency, which is to like destroy what once was connected. It's a hyper identification. It is judgment. It is scarcity. It is feeling isolated and alone. That is all coming back into a greater unity consciousness. And he's saying a lot of people are not understanding that right now, but they will start to see in quick and slow ways for themselves, depending on their own frequency, they will be able to receive or not receive based off of how heart-centered they are. Cool. But we don't have to wait a long time for change. Change will start happening in ways that are very relieving to lots of people very quickly because higher vibratory experiences happen more quickly. And so he's saying if you are still like unsure, you don't know, blah, blah, blah. He said, just watch out for what feels like fast and time moving fast for you and things around you. And that's everything from like your experiences individually to collectively to like technology. He's saying, notice how the last year with AI has gone. It is exponentially grown because it in itself is of a high frequency. In order to have access to that technology, it has to be a higher frequency. And he's saying, speak blessings to the things that you have had concern with, because you will manifest with the power of your words and your thoughts. And if you are unsure and you are in any way frightened, you are going to bring in more frightened realities. So speaking blessings and to realize your personal ability to do so, to create your own reality, because you are a creator as well. What else? He's like, be excited, because we're all very, very excited. And we're so excited to be of assistance in whatever way we can once we've reached a threshold that allows a more co-creative approach as opposed to a distanced approach. There is a period of time where it's just not ready for us to like be standing in the same room with extra dimensionals talking to people who don't look like us. That's going to take a while, but the information is very readily available to assist us in our ability to reach a higher state of collective consciousness. And he's like anticipating my argument, because I was talking with my friend Mariana about like Atlantis fell because we got technology we weren't ready for, and he's saying it's not going to be given if you're not ready for it. To go into the etheric field and pull in the information is only available if it's a vibrational match to what you yourself are anchoring in onto the planet by human beings. So do not worry about that. Okay. Any final words of wisdom? He said, the suffering is going to end. Get used to the idea of not living to work and not working to live, but instead coming into a state of perfect synchronicity and manifestation within your environment from a position of personal power. the only thing you have to answer to is you, and the you will answer to at that time will be far more loving than it has been to you in the past. Makes me want to cry because he's acknowledging that we have been unkind to ourselves. We have been unkind to ourselves. Thank you, Osho. My eyes are all misty. Okay. I want to thank you for being present for this somewhat long podcast episode. And I want to thank you for supporting me and what I'm doing to try to anchor love into the planet through an open heart space. And it's very important for you to remember that despite what I share with you and what you receive in other places, your truth lies within your heart, and you are your own guru. Thank you so much. Until next time.